The rain hammered against the cafe window like impatient fingers, each drop racing down the glass in desperate rivulets that mirrored the anxiety churning in my stomach. I wrapped my oversized cardigan tighter around my body, the fabric worn thin from too many washes, and tried to disappear into the cracked leather booth. The coffee in front of me had gone cold an hour ago, but I kept my hands wrapped around the chipped mug anyway, needing something to anchor me. My best friend Sarah had set this up. "Just one date, Maya," she'd pleaded over the phone last week. "My cousin's friend needs someone nice. Low pressure. You need to get out of that apartment. Low pressure." The words felt like a cruel joke now as I glanced down at my reflection in the darkened phone screen. I'd done this on purpose. Chosen the baggiest sweater I owned, one that swallowed my frame whole and hid every curve. My hair was pulled back in a messy bun that I hadn't bothered to fix, and I'd skipped makeup entirely, except for a hasty swipe of chapstick. The jeans I wore had a hole in the knee, not the fashionable kind, but the kind that came from kneeling on the floor of the grocery store where I worked, stocking shelves until my back screamed. I wanted him to take one look and leave. I wanted this whole charade to end before it began. The cafe smelled like burnt espresso and old pastries, mingling with the wet dog scent of rain-soaked coats hanging by the door. A couple argued in hushed tones at the counter. A baby cried somewhere in the back. The fluorescent bulb above my table flickered intermittently, casting everything in an uncertain light that matched my mood perfectly. I was invisible here, safe in my ugliness, my poverty, my complete and utter ordinariness. My phone buzzed. Running 10 minutes late. So sorry. Marcus. I didn't even know his last name. Sarah had been frustratingly vague about the details. "He's successful," she'd said with a mysterious smile. "Very private, but kind. You'll like him." I didn't want to like him. I didn't want to like anyone. The last relationship had left me gutted, living in a studio apartment with walls so thin I could hear my neighbors' every movement, working double shifts just to make rent, eating ramen for dinner more nights than not. Dating required hope, and I'd buried mine somewhere deep where it couldn't hurt me anymore. The door chimed. Cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of rain and something else. Something expensive that didn't belong in this neighborhood. Leather, clean cologne, money. I didn't look up. Whoever just walked in wasn't my problem. But then the air in the cafe shifted. The arguing couple fell silent. The barista's hand froze mid-pour. Even the crying baby seemed to quiet, as if the world itself had taken a breath and held it. My skin prickled with awareness, that ancient instinct that recognizes a predator even before the conscious mind catches up. Slowly, against my better judgment, I lifted my gaze. 3 men had entered. No. 2 men flanked the doorway, their eyes scanning the cafe with mechanical precision, hands resting near their waists in a way that made my pulse spike. They wore dark suits that fit too well, earpieces barely visible, and they moved like soldiers. But it was the 3rd man who stole the oxygen from my lungs. He stood in the center, rainwater sliding off a black coat that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Tall, at least 6'2", with shoulders that filled the doorway even without the coat. Dark hair, slightly damp, pushed back from a face that could have been carved from marble by some Renaissance master who understood both beauty and cruelty. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, eyes so dark they looked black in the cafe's dim lighting, scanning the room with the kind of cold assessment that made me want to hide. He was young, maybe early 30s, but carried himself with the authority of someone who'd commanded respect since birth. Power radiated from him like heat, making everything around him seem shabby and small by comparison. This couldn't be Marcus. This man didn't go on blind dates at rundown cafes. This man didn't go anywhere without purpose. But then his gaze found mine, and the world tilted. Those dark eyes locked onto me with an intensity that physically hurt, like staring into the sun. His expression didn't change, no smile, no recognition. But something shifted in his posture. A predator that had just spotted its prey. He moved toward me, his bodyguards following like shadows, and I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. My fingers tightened around the cold coffee mug until I thought it might shatter. "Maya?" His voice was low, controlled, with an accent I couldn't quite place. European, maybe? Old money. Danger. I nodded, unable to form words. This had to be a mistake, some cosmic joke. Men who looked like this, who moved like this, who made hardened bodyguards follow 3 steps behind. They didn't show up for blind dates with grocery store clerks wearing secondhand cardigans. I'm Dante. He didn't offer his hand, didn't smile, just studied me with those penetrating eyes that seemed to catalog every detail. My worn sweater, my unmade face, my bitten nails, my fear. May I sit? Before I could respond, one of the bodyguards was pulling out the chair across from me, checking it, checking the angle to the door, checking everything with trained paranoia. The other had positioned himself near the entrance, blocking it, blocking any escape. Dante sat with fluid grace, unbuttoning his coat to reveal a suit underneath that probably cost more than my car, if I'd had a car. A watch glinted at his wrist, sleek and silver. His hands were elegant but scarred across the knuckles, the kind of scars that came from violence, not accidents. "You're not what I expected," he said, his gaze never leaving my face. I found my voice, though it came out smaller than I intended. I could say the same. The corner of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "Sarah mentioned you worked in retail, that you were shy." She undersold it. I tried for humor, but it fell flat. My hands were shaking. I hid them in my lap. A waiter appeared, the same one who'd ignored me for the past hour, now practically tripping over himself. "Mr. Moretti, what can I get you? Anything you need? Anything at all?" "Espresso. Double. Nothing for you?" This last question was directed at me, and I shook my head mutely. Mr. Moretti. The name echoed in my head, familiar in a way that made my stomach clench. Where had I heard it before? News? Rumors? Whispered warnings? The waiter vanished. Dante leaned back in his chair, still studying me with that unnerving intensity. "You dressed like this on purpose." It wasn't a question. Heat flooded my cheeks. "I don't know what you... to make me leave," he continued, his voice soft but certain. "You wanted me to take one look and walk away." My throat went dry. How could he possibly know that? It won't work. He said it simply, factually, the way someone might comment on the weather. "I'm not leaving." Something in his tone made my pulse race. Not entirely from fear, which terrified me more than anything else. "Why not?" His eyes darkened, if that was even possible. When he spoke again, his voice had dropped even lower, intimate and dangerous, "Because from the moment I walked through that door and saw you trying to make yourself invisible in that corner, looking at me like I might devour you whole." He paused, leaning forward slightly. The scent of his cologne reached me, expensive and intoxicating. "I knew." "Knew what?" I whispered. "That you're mine." The words hung in the air between us, absolute and terrifying. Not a question, not a hope. A statement of fact, delivered with the confidence of a man who'd never been denied anything in his life. I should have laughed, should have told him he was insane and walked out. But the intensity in his gaze held me frozen, and some dark, hungry part of me that I'd tried so hard to bury recognized the claim and responded to it. The espresso arrived. Dante took a sip, never breaking eye contact. "Tell me about yourself, Maya." "There's nothing to tell." My voice was barely audible over the rain. "Everything," he corrected. "I want to know everything. This was wrong. All of it. The bodyguards, the suit, the way he looked at me like I was something precious he'd just discovered and had no intention of releasing. I needed to leave, needed to run, but I stayed. And when I opened my mouth to answer, to give him some mundane detail about my boring life, the cafe door burst open. A man stumbled in, soaked and wild-eyed, scanning the room frantically. His gaze landed on Dante, and his face went white. "Moretti," he gasped. "Thank God. I need to talk to you. It's about the shipment. They know." "They..." He never finished. One of Dante's bodyguards had him by the throat, slamming him against the wall so fast I barely saw the movement. The cafe erupted into chaos. Chairs scraping, people screaming, someone's coffee shattering on the floor. But Dante didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on mine, one hand reaching across the table to capture my wrist before I could flee. "Don't," he said quietly, his thumb pressing against my racing pulse. "Don't run from me, Piccola. You have nothing to fear," except I did. Because in that moment, watching this beautiful, terrifying man hold me in place while violence erupted around us and his face remained perfectly calm, I realized 3 things. First, Sarah had set me up with someone dangerous, possibly the most dangerous man in the city. Second, Dante Moretti had no intention of letting me walk away from this cafe alone. And third, God help me, I wasn't sure I wanted to. The man against the wall was sobbing now, incoherent apologies spilling from his lips as Dante's bodyguard held him effortlessly in place. My wrist burned where Dante's fingers circled it. Not painful, but firm enough that I understood the unspoken command. "Stay." "Marco." Dante's voice cut through the chaos like a blade, quiet but absolute. "Take him outside. Carefully." The bodyguard, Marco, apparently, nodded once and dragged the stammering man toward the door. The other guard, still positioned at the entrance, opened it without a word. Rain and cold air rushed in as they disappeared into the storm, leaving behind a cafe full of terrified witnesses and one very stupid girl who hadn't run when she had the chance. Dante released my wrist slowly, his thumb dragging across my skin in a gesture that felt far too intimate. "Forgive the interruption." I stared at him, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. "Who are you?" "I told you." "Dante Moretti." "That's not what I mean." My voice came out stronger than I expected. "What are you?" His eyes flickered with something that might have been approval. "Sarah didn't tell you?" "She said you were successful. Private." I pulled my hand back into my lap, trying to ignore how cold my skin felt without his touch. "She didn't mention the bodyguards, or the people who burst into cafes terrified of you." "No," he agreed, lifting his espresso cup. "She wouldn't have. You would have refused to come. The admission should have made me angry. Instead, it just confirmed what I'd already suspected. This entire evening was a setup. But for what purpose? Why would she do this?" Dante took another sip before answering, his gaze never leaving my face. It was unnerving, the way he watched me. Like I was a puzzle he was determined to solve, or a painting he was memorizing, or prey he was deciding exactly how to catch. Because I asked her to. The words took a moment to register. "You..." "What?" "3 weeks ago, I saw you." He set down his cup with precise care. "You were leaving your work, late shift. It was raining, like tonight. You didn't have an umbrella, so you held your bag over your head and ran to the bus stop." His voice softened slightly, and something dangerous glinted in his eyes. "You were smiling. Even soaked and exhausted, you were smiling at something on your phone." Ice flooded my veins. "You've been watching me?" "Yes." No explanation, no excuse. Just that simple, terrifying affirmation. I should have screamed, should have run, should have done anything except sit there, frozen, as this beautiful stranger admitted to stalking me. That's insane. You're insane. Perhaps. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, bringing his face closer to mine. The cafe lights caught the sharp planes of his features, casting shadows that made him look even more dangerous. But I needed to know who you were, so I made inquiries, found out about Sarah, found out she'd been trying to set you up for months. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. It wasn't difficult to convince her to help. Help with what? Ambushing me? Meeting you properly. He said it like there was a distinction. Like stalking and orchestrating blind dates were somehow different levels of invasiveness. I wanted to see you up close, speak with you. Understand why I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for 3 weeks. My hands clenched in my lap. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. But my body wouldn't cooperate. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was shock. Or maybe... And this was the most terrifying possibility. It was the dark, twisted part of me that heard his words and felt something other than horror. "I don't understand," I whispered. "I'm nobody. I stock shelves and live in an apartment where I can hear my neighbors' every argument. I eat ramen for dinner and shop at thrift stores. Why would someone like you..." I gestured vaguely at his suit, his watch, the bodyguard still stationed at the door. Want anything to do with me? His expression shifted, something almost like tenderness crossing his features, before the cold mask returned. Because you smiled in the rain, Maya. Because when I've watched you these past weeks, I've seen you give your lunch to the homeless man who sits outside your store. I've seen you stay late to help an elderly woman reach something on a high shelf. I've seen you exist in a world that has clearly not been kind to you, and still maintain something genuine. He paused, his voice dropping. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Your world, I repeated. Which is what, exactly? For a long moment he didn't answer. The rain continued its assault on the windows. Somewhere in the cafe, someone dropped a plate, and the crash made me flinch. Dante's jaw tightened slightly, the only sign that he'd noticed. I handle certain business interests, he finally said. Import, export, investments. Some of these interests operate in areas that law enforcement finds questionable. His eyes bored into mine. I am not a good man, Piccola. I've done things that would make you run from this cafe and never look back, but I've never lied about what I am. You're a criminal. The word tasted strange on my tongue. I prefer entrepreneur, but yes, if we're being crude about it. He didn't look ashamed, didn't look anything except calmly certain. Does that frighten you? Yes. There was no point in lying. Good. Fear will keep you cautious. He reached across the table again, and this time I didn't pull away when his fingers found mine. But I need you to understand something, Maya. From this moment forward, you're under my protection. No one will hurt you. No one will threaten you. No one will even look at you wrong without answering to me. I tried to pull my hand back, but his grip tightened just enough to keep me in place. I don't want your protection. I don't want anything from you. This is insane. You can't just decide. I already have. His thumb stroked across my knuckles, the gesture absurdly gentle considering his words. You can fight it. You can hate me for it, but it won't change the fact that you're mine now. I'm not a possession. No, he agreed. You're far more valuable than that. The cafe door opened again, and Marco returned, rain-soaked and grim. He approached our table, leaning down to whisper something in Dante's ear. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw Dante's expression darken, his jaw clenching. Handle it, Dante said quietly. Marco nodded and disappeared again. What was that about? I asked, my voice shaking. Nothing you need to worry about. He released my hand, reaching into his coat to pull out a phone. Sleek, black, expensive. Give me your number. No. He looked up at me, one eyebrow raised. No, I'm not giving you my number. I'm going to leave this cafe, go home, and pretend this entire nightmare never happened. I stood up, grabbing my threadbare coat from the booth. Thank you for the... well, not for anything, actually. This has been the most disturbing evening of my life. I made it 3 steps before Dante was standing in front of me, moving so fast and so silently that I gasped. He didn't touch me, but his presence alone was enough to root me in place. I can't let you leave alone, he said softly. It's not safe. Safe from what? From who? My voice rose slightly. The only dangerous person I've met tonight is you. His eyes flickered with something, pain, maybe, or recognition. Fair enough. But the man who came in earlier, the one Marco removed, he was followed. Which means people now know I'm here. Which means they'll be watching when you leave. He leaned closer, and I could smell his cologne again, intoxicating and terrifying. I have enemies, Maya, many of them. And as of tonight, you're associated with me. That makes you a target. Then unassociate me. I tried to step around him, but he moved with me. A dance I couldn't win. Tell your enemies or whoever that I'm nobody. That this was a mistake. It's too late for that. His voice had gone cold, the brief flash of tenderness completely gone. They've already seen us together, already taken photos, most likely. By morning, everyone in my world will know that Dante Moretti spent the evening with an unknown woman. His hand came up to cut my face, and I froze. Which means they'll want to know who you are, what you mean to me, and how they can use you. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. This is your fault. You did this. You stalked me, orchestrated this meeting, and now you're telling me I'm in danger because of your choices? Yes. No apology, no regret. Just that simple, devastating confirmation. I hate you. The words came out broken. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, catching a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. You will. Many times, I think. But you'll be alive to hate me, which is what matters. Before I could respond, before I could scream or fight or do anything, he was guiding me toward the door with a hand on the small of my back. The bodyguard appeared instantly, holding an umbrella, scanning the street with those paranoid eyes. Where are we going? I demanded, trying to dig my heels in. Somewhere safe. My driver is outside. I'm not getting in a car with you. He looked down at me, and for the first time since we'd met, I saw something almost like regret in his expression. I know this is frightening. I know you don't understand, but I promise you, Piccola, I will never hurt you. Everything I do from this moment forward is to keep you safe from threats you created. Yes. He didn't deny it, didn't try to justify it, just kept guiding me toward the door, toward the rain, toward whatever nightmare he was pulling me into. The street was dark and wet, the rain having driven most people indoors. A black SUV idled at the curb, windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. Marco opened the back door, and warm air spilled out, along with the scent of leather and luxury. I looked at that open door, at Dante's hand still resting against my back, at the empty street where no one would hear me scream, and I made the stupidest decision of my life. I got in the car. Dante slid in beside me, and Marco closed the door with a soft click that sounded like a prison cell locking. The driver, another stern-faced man in a dark suit, pulled away from the curb without a word. I pressed myself against the opposite door, as far from Dante as possible. Where are you taking me? My home. You'll stay there tonight. Absolutely not. Take me to my apartment. Your apartment has 3 separate entry points, windows that don't lock properly, and neighbors who wouldn't hear you scream over their own arguments. He said it calmly, like he was discussing the weather, not revealing that he'd thoroughly surveilled my living situation. It's not secure. How do you know? I stopped, closing my eyes. Of course you know. You've been watching me for 3 weeks, making sure you were safe, he corrected. That's not comforting. I turned to face him fully, anger finally overtaking fear. Nothing about this is comforting. You're a criminal who's decided I belong to him based on seeing me smile in the rain. You've turned my life upside down in the span of an hour, and now you're kidnapping me. I prefer protective custody. The corner of his mouth twitched again. Was he amused? But yes. Technically, I suppose this could be classified as kidnapping. I wanted to hit him, wanted to scream, wanted to do anything except sit in this impossibly comfortable car that probably cost more than I'd earn in 5 years, watching this beautiful, terrifying man look at me like I was something precious he'd finally captured. What happens tomorrow? I asked, my voice small. What happens when I don't show up for work? When Sarah can't reach me? When people realize I'm missing? I'll handle it. He pulled out his phone, fingers moving across the screen. Your manager will receive notification that you've had a family emergency and need time off. Paid, of course. Sarah will receive a text from your number, explaining that the date went well, and you need some time to think. He looked up at me. And anyone else who matters to you will be assured that you're safe. You can't just erase my life. I'm not erasing it. His voice softened. I'm protecting it. There's a difference. The car pulled up to a gate, massive, iron, with security cameras visible even in the rain. It swung open automatically, and we drove through into what looked like a private estate. Trees lined the driveway, their branches creating a canopy overhead. In the distance, I could see lights. A house, but calling it that felt inadequate. It was a mansion. All stone and glass and old-world elegance. Welcome home, Piccola, Dante said quietly, as the car stopped in front of massive double doors. And despite everything, despite the fear and anger and sheer insanity of the situation, a small, traitorous part of me whispered that I'd never had a real home. Maybe that's why I didn't fight when Marco opened the door. Maybe that's why I let Dante guide me inside, his hand warm and possessive against my back. Or maybe I was just too tired, too broken, too desperate for something different than my sad little life. Whatever the reason, I crossed that threshold, and everything changed. The interior of Dante's home stole what little breath I had left. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers that cast prismatic light across walls adorned with art that looked like it belonged in museums. A grand staircase curved upward to the second floor, its wrought iron railing intricate as lace. The air smelled of sandalwood and something floral, jasmine, maybe, mixed with the underlying scent of old money and older secrets. I stood dripping on an antique rug that probably cost more than my entire apartment building, feeling more out of place than I ever had in my life. "You'll catch cold." Dante's voice came from behind me, closer than I expected. I jumped slightly, and his hand settled on my shoulder, steadying, claiming. "Come, I'll show you to your room." "My room," I repeated numbly. "Like I'm a guest." "You are a guest." He moved past me toward the staircase, clearly expecting me to follow. An honored one. Honored guests can usually leave when they want. He paused mid-step, turning to look back at me. In the chandelier light, his features were even more striking. Sharp enough to cut, beautiful enough to make my chest ache. "Give me 1 week, Maya." "What?" 1 week. He descended the 2 steps he'd climbed, bringing himself level with me again. "Stay here for 1 week. Let me show you that you're safe. Let me prove that I'm not the monster you think I am." His hand came up to brush a wet strand of hair from my face, the gesture achingly gentle. "If after 7 days you still want to leave, I'll take you home myself. I'll post guards to keep you safe, but I won't force you to stay." I searched his face for deception, for the trap hidden in his words. "And if I say no? If I demand you take me home right now?" His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Then I'll take you home, and I'll station guards outside your building, inside your hallway, watching your every move to ensure no one hurts you because of me." He leaned closer, and I could see flecks of gold in those dark eyes. "You'll have no privacy, no freedom. Every moment will be shadowed by my men, by my protection, whether you want it or not, because I won't let you die for the crime of having caught my attention. That's not a choice. That's an ultimatum. Yes." He didn't apologize, but at least here in my home, you'll be comfortable. You'll have space. You'll have everything you need. His voice dropped lower. "And you'll have me, Piccola, which I'm beginning to think you need more than you're willing to admit." The presumption should have made me furious. Instead, it made something twist in my stomach, something dangerously close to longing. Because he wasn't entirely wrong. My life was empty, lonely, an endless cycle of work and sleep and survival that had worn me down to nothing. And here was this man, dangerous, possessive, completely insane, offering me something different. Something that terrified me precisely because part of me wanted it. 1 week, I heard myself say. But I want my phone. I want to be able to contact people if I need to. Of course. He pulled my phone from his pocket. When had he taken it? And held it out. "Though I'll be monitoring all communications. For your safety." I snatched it back, holding it against my chest like a lifeline. "You're unbelievable. I'm practical." He turned back toward the stairs. "Come. You need dry clothes and food. When did you last eat?" The question caught me off guard. Lunch, I think. Yesterday." He stopped walking, his shoulders tensing. When he looked back at me, something burned in his expression. Anger, but not directed at me. "Yesterday. I was saving money. Rent is due, and I had to fix my—" I stopped, realizing I was explaining myself to my captor. "Everything about you is my business now." He closed the distance between us in 2 strides, his hand cupping my face again in that possessive gesture that made my knees weak. "You will never go hungry again, never choose between food and rent. Never work yourself to exhaustion just to survive." His thumb traced my lower lip, and I couldn't suppress the shiver that ran through me. "I take care of what's mine, Maya. And you, whether you accept it yet or not, are mine." Before I could respond, before I could tell him again that I wasn't a possession, He was guiding me up the stairs with that firm hand against my back. We walked down a hallway lined with more art, more luxury, more evidence of a life so far removed from mine it might as well have been another planet. He stopped at a door, pushing it open to reveal a bedroom that made me gasp. It was enormous. A 4-poster bed dominated the center, dressed in linens that looked softer than clouds. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the estate grounds, where landscape lighting illuminated gardens even in the rain. A sitting area featured a velvet couch and chairs arranged around a fireplace that crackled with real flames. A door stood ajar, revealing a bathroom with a tub large enough to swim in. "This is..." I couldn't find words. "Yours." Dante moved into the room, opening a closet that ran the entire length of one wall. Inside hung clothes, women's clothes, in various sizes and styles. "I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I had several options prepared. Tomorrow, if none of these suit you, we'll arrange for a proper wardrobe." I stared at the clothes, then at him. "You prepared this. Before tonight. Before you even knew if I'd come. I told you. I've been planning this for 3 weeks." He selected a soft-looking sweater and pants, laying them on the bed. "I wanted everything ready for you." "This is insane," I whispered, but the words had lost their heat. I was too tired, too overwhelmed, too seduced by the warmth and comfort and sheer luxury surrounding me. "Get changed." His voice had gone gentle again. "There's a bathroom through that door. Take your time. When you're ready, come downstairs. I'll have dinner prepared." He moved toward the door, and panic flared in my chest. "Wait." He turned, eyebrows raised. "Why me?" The question burst out before I could stop it. "Really, I need to understand. You could have anyone. Women who fit into your world. Women who are beautiful and sophisticated and... You are beautiful." He said it with such conviction that I almost believed him. But more than that, you're real, genuine, untouched by the corruption and greed that poisons everything in my world. He took a step back toward me, and I held my ground even though every instinct screamed to retreat. "Do you know what it's like, Maya, to live in a world where everyone wants something from you? Where every smile is calculated, every word a negotiation, every relationship a transaction?" I shook my head mutely. "It's exhausting, soul-destroying." His hand came up to my face again, and this time I leaned into it without thinking. "And then I saw you, smiling in the rain for no reason except that something on your phone amused you, giving your lunch away even though you couldn't afford to, existing in your small, difficult life with a grace and kindness that no one in my world possesses." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "You're everything I'm not, Piccola. Everything I can never be. And I want you so desperately it frightens even me." The confession hung between us, raw and honest and terrifying. I should have pushed him away, should have maintained my anger, my fear, my resistance. Instead, I whispered, "What if I disappoint you? What if I'm not what you think I am?" His smile was small but genuine. "Impossible. Now get changed before you catch pneumonia. I didn't go through all this trouble just to watch you get sick." He left before I could respond, the door clicking shut behind him with a finality that made my stomach clench. I stood alone in that beautiful room, dripping on expensive carpet, my wet cardigan clinging to my skin. Part of me wanted to try the door to see if he'd actually locked me in. But a larger part, the part that was tired and cold and so desperately hungry for something more than survival, just wanted to believe him. The bathroom was as luxurious as the bedroom. Heated floors warmed my frozen feet. Fluffy towels hung on warming racks. The shower had multiple heads and settings that probably required an engineering degree to understand. I peeled off my wet clothes, leaving them in a sodden heap, and stepped into the shower. Hot water cascaded over me, washing away the rain and cold and fear. Expensive soaps lined built-in shelves. Lavender, vanilla, rose. I used them all, scrubbing until my skin turned pink, until I felt almost human again. The clothes Dante had selected fit perfectly. How had he known my size, and were softer than anything I'd ever owned? The sweater was cashmere, dove gray, and felt like being wrapped in a cloud. The pants were silk-lined, falling perfectly to my ankles. I caught sight of myself in the full-length mirror, and barely recognized the woman staring back. Without the intentional frumpy disguise, without the armor of ugliness I'd worn to the cafe, I looked different, vulnerable, almost pretty, in the right light. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. OMG, how did it go? Marcus said you guys really hit it off, Marcus. She still thought his name was Marcus. She had no idea what she'd actually set in motion. I typed back, it was interesting. Need some time to process. Talk tomorrow? Her response came immediately. Yes. So proud of you for giving it a chance. He's a good guy, I promise. A good guy. I almost laughed. Dante Moretti was many things, but good wasn't one of them. My stomach growled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since yesterday. The thought of food, real food, not ramen or day-old bread, was too tempting to resist. I left the safety of the bedroom and made my way downstairs, following the sounds and smells emanating from somewhere in the back of the house. The mansion was a maze of hallways and rooms, each more opulent than the last. I passed a library with floor-to-ceiling books, a room filled with gym equipment, another that looked like a home theater. Finally, I found the kitchen, modern and gleaming, all marble counters and professional-grade appliances. And there, at a small table in an adjacent breakfast nook, sat Dante. He'd changed too, trading his suit for dark pants and a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal those scarred forearms. His hair was still damp, suggesting he'd showered as well. He looked younger like this, less dangerous, though the gun I could see holstered at his side quickly dispelled that illusion. Sit. He gestured to the chair across from him, where a plate waited. Pasta in cream sauce, perfectly cooked vegetables, bread that steamed when I broke it open. Eat. I sat, unable to resist the siren call of real food. The first bite nearly made me moan, rich and flavorful, and so far beyond anything I'd tasted in months that tears pricked my eyes. Dante watched me eat with that intense focus, barely touching his own plate. Good? I couldn't find adequate words. Thank you. Don't thank me for basic necessities. His voice had gone hard again. The fact that you've been starving yourself to pay rent makes me want to burn down your landlord's office. Please don't. I took another bite, savoring it. I need a place to live. You have one. Here. For 1 week, I corrected. That was the deal. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Instead, he asked, tell me about yourself, your family. Why? So you can add it to the file you've clearly already compiled on me? I want to hear it from you. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. I want to know who you are, Maya. Not just the facts I've gathered, but the person behind them. I should have refused, should have kept that wall between us. But the food, the warmth, the genuine interest in his eyes, it all wore down my resistance. There's not much to tell, I said quietly. My parents died when I was 16. Car accident. I went into foster care, aged out at 18. I've been on my own ever since. I pushed pasta around my plate. No siblings, no extended family that wanted anything to do with me. Just alone. Something flickered across his face. Pain, recognition, understanding. I'm sorry. Don't be. It made me strong. It made you survive. His hand reached across the table, covering mine. But you deserve more than survival, Piccola. You deserve to live. The sincerity in his voice broke something inside me. Tears spilled over before I could stop them, and I yanked my hand back, swiping at my face. I'm fine. I've always been fine. No. He stood, coming around the table to kneel beside my chair. His hands framed my face, thumbs brushing away tears with devastating gentleness. You're not fine. You haven't been fine for a very long time. But you will be. His forehead touched mine, and I could smell his cologne, feel his breath against my lips. I promise you, Maya, I will make sure you're more than fine. I should have pulled away, should have reminded him that he was my captor, that this was wrong, that nothing about this situation was okay. Instead, I let him hold me while I cried. And when he finally pulled back, pressing a kiss to my forehead that felt like both a promise and a brand, I didn't protest. I was already lost. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I didn't recognize, tangled in sheets softer than anything I'd ever touched. For a confused moment, I thought I was dreaming, that the mansion, Dante, all of it had been some fever-induced hallucination brought on by too many skipped meals and not enough sleep. Then, memory crashed back, and with it, reality. I sat up too quickly, my head spinning. The clock on the nightstand read 10:47 a.m. I never slept past 6, even on my rare days off. Panic fluttered in my chest until I remembered. Dante had handled my work, had sent messages, had essentially erased my obligations so I could exist here in this gilded cage. A soft knock interrupted my spiraling thoughts. "Miss Maya?" A woman's voice, accented and kind. "May I come in?" I pulled the covers up to my chin. Yes?" The door opened to reveal a woman in her 50s, gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing a simple black dress and apron. She carried a tray laden with food, fresh fruit, pastries, coffee that smelled like heaven. "Good morning." She smiled warmly, setting the tray on the bedside table. "I'm Rosa. I manage Mr. Moretti's household. He asked me to ensure you had everything you needed." I stared at the food, my stomach growling traitorously. "Thank you, but you didn't have to. It's no trouble." Rosa began opening curtains, letting in more of that golden light. "Mr. Moretti left early this morning for business, but asked that I show you around the house when you're ready. He'll return for dinner." She paused, her expression softening. "He also asked me to tell you that you're free to go anywhere on the estate. The only restriction is that you must have security with you if you leave the grounds." So the prison had expanded to include gardens. How generous. Rosa must have seen something in my face because she added gently, "He's trying, you know, in his way." "Trying to what? Keep me captive politely?" She didn't flinch at my tone. "Trying to keep you alive, dear. The world he lives in, it's not kind, especially not to those he cares about." She moved toward the door. "Eat, shower. I'll be downstairs when you're ready for a tour." After she left, I picked at the breakfast, each bite a reminder of how far I'd fallen into this strange new reality. The coffee was perfect, rich and smooth, nothing like the bitter sludge I usually choke down at work. The pastries melted on my tongue. Even the fruit tasted better here, as if wealth could improve the flavor of strawberries. I showered again, unable to resist the luxury of the massive bathroom. The closet yielded more clothes in my size. Jeans that fit perfectly, a soft green sweater, even undergarments still in their packaging. The attention to detail was both thoughtful and deeply unsettling. Rosa was waiting in the foyer, her smile brightening when she saw me. "Much better. You have good color today. Mr. Moretti was worried. You looked so pale last night. He told you about that?" "He tells me very little, but I have eyes." She gestured for me to follow her down a hallway I hadn't explored the previous night. "I've worked for the Moretti family for 30 years. First his father, God rest his soul, then Dante when he took over the business. I've seen him with many women over the years." She glanced back at me, something knowing in her eyes, "but I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. The tour was overwhelming. The mansion had 12 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, the library I'd glimpsed, a full gym, the home theater, a wine cellar that Rosa claimed held bottles worth more than cars, and a solarium filled with plants that shouldn't have been able to grow this far north. Every room spoke of wealth accumulated over generations, of power maintained through methods I didn't want to imagine. "And this," Rosa said, opening double doors to reveal a room that stole my breath, "is Mr. Moretti's private study. You're one of very few people allowed inside." The study was all dark wood and leather, bookshelves lining 3 walls, a massive desk positioned to face windows overlooking the gardens. But what caught my attention were the monitors, 6 of them mounted on one wall, showing different security camera feeds. I could see the front gate, the driveway, various points around the estate perimeter. And there, on one screen, was my apartment building. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. The camera had a clear view of my front entrance, the bus stop where I waited every morning, even the grocery store where I worked. "He's been watching," I whispered. Rosa's hand touched my shoulder gently. He's been protecting. There's a difference, dear. Is there? I turned to face her, because from where I'm standing it looks like obsession. She studied me for a long moment before speaking. When Dante was 15, his mother was killed, murdered by rivals who wanted to hurt his father. They took her from a restaurant in broad daylight, and by the time his father's men found her, it was too late. Rosa's voice was soft but steady. Dante was the one who identified her body. A boy, looking at what those monsters had done to the woman he loved most in the world. My anger faltered, replaced by something uncomfortably close to sympathy. After that, Rosa continued, he became obsessed with control. With knowing where everyone was, what threats existed, how to prevent another loss. His father tried to help him, but the damage was done. When his father died 5 years ago, Dante took over not just the business, but the burden of protecting everyone in his world. She squeezed my shoulder. So yes, he watches. Yes, he controls. But it comes from a place of terror, not cruelty. He's afraid of losing what matters to him. But I'm not his to lose, I protested weakly. Rosa's smile was sad. Try telling him that. She left me alone in the study, and I sank into the leather chair behind Dante's desk, staring at those monitors, at my building, at the life I'd been living, small and struggling and alone. Had I really been happy, or had I just convinced myself that survival was enough? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Rosa says you're awake. How do you feel? I stared at it for a moment before typing back. Like I'm in a very expensive prison. The response came quickly. Fair. But are you comfortable? Do you need anything? Despite everything, I found myself smiling slightly. Besides my freedom, 3 dots appeared then. Besides that, I'll be home by 6. We'll talk then. I set the phone down and turned my attention to the bookshelves. They were filled with an eclectic mix. Classic literature, business texts, books on art and history, even some philosophy. I pulled out a worn copy of The Count of Monte Cristo and found notes in the margins, written in elegant script. Dante's handwriting, presumably, comments about revenge and justice, and the price of both. I was so engrossed in reading that I didn't hear anyone enter until a male voice said, "He reads that one every year." I jumped, the book nearly flying from my hands. Marco stood in the doorway, the bodyguard from last night, his expression neutral but not unkind. "I'm sorry to startle you, Miss Maya. Mr. Moretti asked me to check on you." "I'm fine." I clutched the book to my chest like a shield. "Just exploring. He said you might want to see the gardens. They're quite beautiful," and the rain stopped. Marco gestured toward the windows. "I can accompany you if you'd like." The idea of fresh air, of space, was too tempting to resist. "Okay." The gardens were stunning. Manicured lawns, flower beds bursting with late-season blooms, stone paths winding between sculpted hedges. A fountain bubbled in the center, surrounded by benches. Beyond the formal gardens, I could see woods, and in the distance, what looked like a small lake. Marco walked several paces behind me, giving me the illusion of privacy while maintaining his vigilance. I found myself at the fountain, trailing my fingers in the cold water, wondering how my life had become so surreal in less than 24 hours. "He's going to propose, you know." I spun around. Marco had moved closer, his expression still neutral. "What?" "Not marriage. Not yet." He clasped his hands behind his back. "But he'll ask you to stay, permanently, after the week is up." My mouth went dry. "That's ridiculous. He barely knows me." "He knows enough." Marco's gaze was steady. "I've worked for Mr. Moretti for 8 years. I've seen him make billion-dollar deals without hesitation, eliminate threats without blinking, navigate political minefields that would destroy lesser men. But I've never seen him uncertain about anything until you. I'm not sure if that's romantic or terrifying. It's both." A ghost of a smile crossed Marco's face. "Most things about Dante Moretti are, but I'll tell you what I've told no one else. He's a good man trapped in a dark world. He didn't choose this life. It chose him. And every day he tries to be better than what the world expects him to be." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you'll have to decide soon whether you can accept him for what he is." And I think, Marco paused, choosing his words carefully, I think you might be the only person who can save him from becoming the monster everyone already believes he is. Before I could respond, his hand went to his earpiece, his expression sharpening. Copy that. He looked at me. We need to go inside. Now. What's wrong? Probably nothing, but there's been a breach in the outer perimeter. Standard protocol is to secure all principals. He was already guiding me back toward the house, his hand hovering near the gun at his side. My heart raced. A breach? You mean someone's trying to get in? Or trying to see who's here? We reached the house and Marco ushered me inside, locking the door behind us. Rosa appeared instantly, her face tight with concern. Take her to the safe room, Marco instructed. No. My voice came out stronger than I felt. I'm not hiding in some panic room. Tell me what's happening. Marco exchanged a glance with Rosa before sighing. Surveillance picked up 2 vehicles passing by the main gate 3 times in the last hour. Different cars each time. But the occupants matched known associates of the Calabrese family. Which means, I pressed, which means Dante's rivals are testing his security, seeing what they can see, who they can see. His expression softened slightly. They're looking for weaknesses, Miss Maya. And right now, you're his biggest one. The weight of those words settled over me like a shroud. This was real. The danger Dante had warned me about wasn't just paranoid posturing. It was concrete, present, circling the gates like wolves. How long until Dante gets back? I asked quietly. He's already on his way. Should be here within the hour. Marco's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it. He wants to talk to you. He handed me the phone. I lifted it to my ear with shaking hands. Hello? Maya. Dante's voice was tight with controlled fury. Are you all right? Yes. Marco has me inside. He mentioned the Calabrese family. Vultures, testing boundaries they shouldn't cross. I could hear traffic in the background, the sound of his vehicle moving fast. This is my fault. I should have been more careful last night. Should have ensured no one saw us together. It's a little late for should-haves. I know, he paused. And when he spoke again, his voice had softened. I'm sorry, Piccola. I promised to keep you safe, and already they're circling. But I swear to you no one will touch you. No one will even get close. Despite everything, the fear, the anger, the sheer insanity of the situation, his words settled something in my chest. I believe you. Good. I could hear the relief in his voice. Stay inside until I get there. Don't go near windows. Marco and Rosa will keep you safe. Dante? I said before he could hang up. Yes? Hurry. The single word held more meaning than I wanted to admit. More need than was wise, more trust than I should have felt. Already am, amore mio. The endearment rolled off his tongue like honey. Already am. The line went dead. I handed the phone back to Marco, who was watching me with that knowing expression again. Come, Rosa said, taking my arm. Let's get you some tea. You look pale again. But as she led me toward the kitchen, as Marco took up position by the door, as the mansion's security systems hummed to life around me, I realized something that should have terrified me, but instead felt almost like relief. I was waiting for Dante to come home, not my captor, not the dangerous criminal who'd upended my life, but Dante, the man who read The Count of Monte Cristo every year and made notes about justice, who'd lost his mother at 15 and never recovered, who looked at me like I was something precious and rare and worth protecting at any cost. I was waiting for him, and that realization changed everything. Dante arrived like a storm, the front doors slamming open, his footsteps echoing through the marble foyer, his voice sharp as he barked orders to Marco and the other guards who'd materialized from nowhere. I stood in the kitchen doorway, tea forgotten in my hands, watching this man command his small army with the precision of a general. Then his eyes found me, and everything else fell away. He crossed the distance between us in seconds, his hands framing my face, his gaze scanning me with frantic intensity. You're all right. Tell me you're all right. I'm fine, I breathed, surprised by how much I meant it. Nothing happened. They just drove by. They shouldn't have gotten that close, his jaw clenched, fury burning just beneath his controlled surface. I'm doubling security, tripling it. No one gets within a mile of this property without me knowing about it. Dante. I covered his hands with mine, feeling the tension vibrating through him. I'm okay. You got here. Everything's okay. He pulled me against his chest so suddenly that my tea sloshed onto the floor. His arms banded around me, one hand cradling the back of my head, and I could feel his heart hammering against my cheek. When Marco called, when he said the Calabresi were circling, his voice broke slightly. I couldn't breathe, Maya. The thought of them touching you, hurting you because of me, but they didn't. I pulled back enough to look at his face. Your security worked. Your people protected me. The system you built kept me safe. Something shifted in his expression. Gratitude, wonder, and that devastating intensity that made my knees weak. You're not angry? Not blaming me for bringing this danger into your life? I should have been. Any rational person would have been. But standing there in his arms, feeling the genuine terror that had gripped him at the thought of me being hurt, I couldn't summon the anger I knew I should feel. I'm terrified, I admitted. But not of you. Not anymore. His thumb traced my cheekbone, and I saw his walls crumbling in real time. I need to tell you something about why I'm the way I am, why I can't let you go. Rosa told me. About your mother. Pain flashed across his face. Then you understand. After she died, I swore I'd never let anyone I cared about be vulnerable again. I built walls, systems, an entire empire designed to protect what's mine. His forehead touched mine, but then I saw you, smiling in the rain, and every wall I'd built crumbled. You became my greatest vulnerability and my greatest desire all at once. That's not love, Dante, I whispered. That's obsession. Perhaps. His lips brushed my temple. But give me time, Piccola. Let me show you it can become love. Real love. The kind that doesn't cage but protects, that doesn't possess but cherishes. Before I could respond, Marco cleared his throat from the doorway. Sir, we need to discuss the security breach. Dante's expression hardened instantly, the vulnerable man disappearing behind the crime lord's mask. Give me 10 minutes. He looked back at me. Will you wait for me, in the study? I nodded, and he pressed a kiss to my forehead before releasing me and striding away with Marco, already issuing commands. Rosa appeared with a mop for the spilled tea, her expression knowing. See? He comes alive around you. You make him feel, and that's something his world doesn't usually allow. I'm not sure I'm ready for this, I confessed. No one ever is, dear. She squeezed my shoulder. But sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never planned for. I made my way to the study, sinking into the leather chair behind Dante's desk. The security monitors still showed my apartment building, the bus stop, the life I'd been living just yesterday. It already felt like a lifetime ago. My phone buzzed. Sarah. Haven't heard from you. Everything okay? Did you see him again? I stared at the message, wondering how to explain. Finally, I typed, Everything's complicated, but okay. I'll call you soon. Promise. Her response. Okay, but I'm here if you need me. Marcus seemed really into you, BTW. Said it was the best date he'd had in years. Marcus. Dante. 2 names for the same dangerous man who'd somehow slipped past every defense I'd built. The door opened, and Dante entered alone, his tie loosened, exhaustion evident in the set of his shoulders. He locked the door behind him, a gesture that should have alarmed me, but instead felt intimate, like he was shutting out the world to create a space just for us. The Calabresi won't be a problem anymore, he said, moving to the leather couch beneath the windows. I've made it very clear what will happen if they come near my property again. Should I ask how you made it clear? Probably not. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. He patted the space beside him. Come here, please. I rose and crossed to the couch, settling beside him, but maintaining a careful distance. He noticed, his expression flickering with something that might have been hurt. I need to tell you the truth about something, he said quietly. About why I was so desperate to meet you. Why I couldn't use normal methods, normal dating. I'm listening. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My world, the world I was born into, it doesn't allow for normal. Every person I meet wants something from me. Power, money, connections, protection. Every relationship is transactional, even the women I've been with. They wanted the lifestyle, the status, the security that comes with being associated with the Moretti name. His hand found mine, threading our fingers together. But you didn't know my name, didn't know what I was. You dressed ugly on purpose to drive me away, which meant you weren't trying to trap me. You gave your lunch to homeless people and smiled for no reason and existed in a world that didn't revolve around me. He turned his head to look at me. Do you understand how rare that is? How precious? So I was what? A novelty? Something different to collect? No. He sat up, turning to face me fully. You were hope. A glimpse of something real in a world built on lies and violence and corruption. When I saw you, I thought maybe I could have something genuine. Maybe I could build something that wasn't stained by blood and fear. But you went about it all wrong, I said softly. The stalking, the forced date, the kidnapping. I know. He looked away, shame evident in his expression. I know. And if I could go back, I'd do it differently. I'd approach you honestly, give you time, let you choose me without coercion. His voice dropped. But I can't go back. All I can do is ask you, beg you, if necessary, to give me a chance to do better. To be better. I studied his face. This beautiful, damaged man who'd lost his mother and never learned how to love without controlling, how to care without consuming. What would that look like? You being better? It would mean no more watching your apartment without permission, no more making decisions for you, no more treating you like something to protect rather than someone to partner with. He squeezed my hand. It would mean giving you real choices, real freedom, and trusting that you might choose to stay anyway. And if I don't, if after this week I choose to leave, pain crossed his face, raw and undisguised, then I'll let you go. I'll make sure you're safe, guards, security, a better apartment if you'll accept it. But I won't force you to stay. His voice cracked slightly. It will destroy me, but I'll let you go. The honesty in his words, the genuine anguish at the thought of losing me, broke something open inside my chest. This wasn't just obsession. This was a man who'd been alone for so long, protected by walls so high that he'd forgotten how to be vulnerable. And somehow, inexplicably, I'd become the person who made him remember. I have conditions, I heard myself say. Hope flared in his eyes. Anything. First, you stop monitoring my communications unless I explicitly agree to it. My phone is mine. Done. Second, you let me keep working. Maybe not at the grocery store, but I need something that's mine. A purpose beyond being your whatever I am to you. I can arrange that. I own several legitimate businesses. You could work wherever you'd like, doing whatever interests you. He paused. Though I'd prefer somewhere secure. Third, I took a breath, steeling myself. You tell me the truth about everything. Your business, your world, the dangers. No more protecting me from information. If I'm choosing to be part of this, I need to know what I'm choosing. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. That will be difficult. There are things I've done, things I do, that will change how you see me. Maybe, I agreed. But lies will destroy us faster than truth ever could. He was quiet for a long moment, studying our joined hands. When he spoke again, his voice was rough with emotion. You said us, like there's already an us to destroy. I realized what I'd implied, and felt heat flood my cheeks. I don't know what this is. I don't know if what I'm feeling is real, or just Stockholm Syndrome, or trauma bonding, or... He cupped my face, silencing me. What are you feeling? Terrified, confused, angry at myself for not hating you. I met his eyes, but also safe, seen. Like for the first time in years, someone actually cares if I exist. I more than care, Maya. His thumb brushed my lower lip. I'm consumed by you. Every thought, every decision, every plan I make, they all revolve around keeping you safe and making you happy. It's maddening and wonderful and completely unprecedented in my life. That's not healthy. Nothing about me is healthy. His smile was self-deprecating. But with you, I want to try to be. I want to be the man who deserves that smile you gave the rain. The man who earns your trust rather than forcing it. I should have pulled away, should have maintained distance and rationality. Instead, I found myself leaning into his touch, my eyes drifting closed. I must be insane. We'll be insane together. His breath ghosted across my lips. May I kiss you, Piccola? I've wanted to since the moment I saw you in that cafe, drowning in that ugly cardigan. The fact that he asked, that he gave me the choice, made my decision easy. Yes. His lips met mine with devastating gentleness, nothing like the possessive intensity I'd expected. He kissed me like I was precious, fragile, something to be savored rather than claimed. His hand cradled the back of my head while his other arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me closer but never forcing, never demanding more than I was willing to give. I melted into him, my hands fisting in his shirt, and kissed him back with all the confusion and fear and unexpected desire swirling inside me. He tasted like espresso and danger, and promises I wasn't sure he could keep. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. Stay. Please. Not just for the week. Stay with me. I don't know if I can, I whispered honestly. This world, your world, it's so far from anything I understand. Then let me teach you. Let me show you that it's not all darkness. There's beauty here too, if you know where to look. His hand found mine again, and I swear to you, Maya, I will spend every day proving that I can be worthy of you, that I can give you the life you deserve, not the life you've been surviving. What if I disappoint you? What if I'm not strong enough for this? Impossible. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, the corner of my mouth. You've survived poverty, loneliness, loss, all while maintaining your kindness and grace. You're stronger than you know, stronger than I am, certainly. A knock at the door interrupted us. Sir, Marco's voice. The perimeter is secure, and I have the Calabrese report ready for your review. Dante's expression hardened slightly, the crime lord returning. 5 minutes. He looked back at me. I need to handle this, but tonight we'll have dinner together, just us. And you can ask me anything you want to know about my world, my business, my life. Complete honesty. Okay. I stood, suddenly nervous. I should let you work. He caught my hand before I could move away, pulling me back down for one more kiss, deeper this time, edged with hunger but still controlled. When he released me, his eyes were dark with promise. Tonight, Piccola, and every night after if you'll have me. I left him to his business dealings and found Rosa in the kitchen, preparing what looked like an elaborate dinner. She smiled when she saw my flushed face, my kiss-swollen lips. He's a good man, underneath everything, she said gently. He just needs someone to see it. I'm terrified I'm making the biggest mistake of my life, I confessed. Or the best decision. She handed me a glass of wine. Sometimes, dear, the scariest choices lead to the most beautiful destinations. That night, Dante kept his promise. We ate dinner in a private dining room, just the two of us. And he told me everything. About his father's business, the legitimate fronts and the darker operations behind them, about the violence he'd witnessed and participated in, about the enemies he'd made and the blood on his hands. He didn't soften it or make excuses. He laid bare the reality of his world, watching my face for the moment I'd be unable to handle it and walk away. But I didn't walk away. Instead, I asked questions, tried to understand, attempted to reconcile this man who read classic literature and mourned his mother with the one who admitted to ordering executions and manipulating systems. I won't pretend to be something I'm not, he said as midnight approached. I'm a criminal by any legal definition. I've hurt people, destroyed lives, built an empire on fear and violence. If you can't accept that, I understand. But I need you to know, everything I do, every dark thing I'm part of, it's to protect the people in my world. To maintain a balance that keeps worse monsters at bay. Vigilante justice, I murmured. Something like that. He refilled my wine glass. The law doesn't reach into the places I operate. Someone has to maintain order, even if that order is built on morally questionable foundations. I was quiet for a long time, processing. Finally, I said, I don't think I can ever be comfortable with violence, but I understand that you didn't choose this life. It chose you, and you're trying, in your way, to be better than what was expected of you. Relief flooded his expression. Does that mean? It means I'll stay, past the week, past whatever deadline you set in your head. I reached across the table, taking his scarred hand in mine. But you have to keep your promises, the honesty, the freedom, treating me as a partner, not a possession. I swear it. He brought my hand to his lips, kissing each knuckle. On my mother's memory, on everything I am, I swear I will be better for you. 3 months later, I stood in that same study, watching snow fall over the estate grounds. My apartment had been given up, my few possessions moved here. I'd started working for one of Dante's legitimate companies, event planning, something I discovered I had a talent for. Rosa had become like the mother I'd lost. Marco was teaching me self-defense, claiming any woman associated with Dante needed to know how to protect herself. And Dante had kept every promise. He was still possessive, still protective to the point of madness. But he asked before he acted. Consulted me on decisions that affected my life, gave me space when I needed it, and held me close when I didn't. We fought sometimes, about his overprotectiveness, about business decisions I disagreed with, about the inherent danger of his world. But we also laughed, talked for hours about everything and nothing, built something real in the midst of all his carefully constructed artifice. Piccola? His voice came from the doorway, and I turned to find him watching me with that same intense gaze that had terrified me months ago. Now it just made me feel cherished. What are you thinking about? How different my life is from what I imagined it would be. He crossed to me, wrapping his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on top of my head. Better or worse? I leaned back against his chest, feeling his heartbeat against my spine. Different, scarier, more complicated. I turned in his arms to face him, but also fuller, richer, more alive than I've felt in years. His smile was genuine and unguarded, the smile he showed only to me. I love you, Maya. I know I've never said it explicitly, but I do, completely, irrevocably. In ways that probably aren't entirely healthy, but are real nonetheless. I know. I reached up to cup his face. I love you too, even though you're possessive and controlling, and sometimes make me want to scream with frustration. But, he prompted, that corner of his mouth twitching, but you're also kind and brilliant and capable of such tenderness that it breaks my heart. I pulled him down for a kiss. You're my complicated, dangerous, wonderful disaster of a man, and I wouldn't change you even if I could. He kissed me deeply, thoroughly, with all the passion and possession and love that defined everything about us. When we broke apart, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. I'm not proposing, he said quickly, seeing my expression. Not yet. I know you need more time, and I respect that. He opened the box to reveal a delicate necklace, a small key on a platinum chain. But I wanted you to have this, a symbol that you hold the key to everything I am. My home, my heart, my entire world. Tears blurred my vision as he fastened it around my neck, the key settling just above my heart. It's beautiful. You're beautiful. He turned me to face the window again, his arms wrapped around me. And this, us, we're going to make it work. I'll spend every day earning the gift of your presence in my life. I know you will. I laced our fingers together, watching snow blanket the gardens in white. But Dante? Yes, amore mio? Eventually, you're going to have to explain to Sarah that Marcus doesn't exist. His laugh rumbled through his chest into my back. Eventually, but not tonight. Tonight, I just want to hold you and be grateful that you smiled in the rain that day, that you walked into that cafe wearing an ugly cardigan, that you gave me a chance when every logical part of you screamed to run. Best worst decision I ever made, I murmured. The very best worst decision, he agreed. And as we stood there together, watching Winter transform his estate into something magical, I realized that Rosa had been right. Sometimes the scariest choices did lead to the most beautiful destinations. I'd walked into that cafe expecting nothing and found everything. In the arms of a dangerous man who loved me with the same intensity he applied to everything else in his life. Completely, obsessively, and with a devotion that would move heaven and earth to keep me safe. It wasn't perfect. It would never be simple, but it was ours. And that was enough.